Shalom. I want to give all honor, glory, and praises to Yahweh, Bashem, Yahweh Shabbat, Shemadash, double honors to the elders and apostle, great master, and top of the institutions of society, salutations to the hopeful that is spirit of the fork and the surgeon. All right, this is going to be on part 3 of the interview by Pastor James Wickstrom with Rabbi Abraham Finkelstein, who is a Ashkenazi Jew. All right, and part 3 is going to cover the 24-minute. Nope, not 24 minutes. From the 22-minute mark to the 32-minute mark. So, to the 32-minute mark. So that should be 10 minutes. Should be roughly 10 minutes. But yeah, if you haven't watched part 1, part 2, I suggest you go watch part 1, part 2. But I'm going to play the clip, and just like on the other parts, I'm going to stop it when they mention, certain topics. I'm going to stop it to break it down and to bring out some precepts, bring out the word of the Lord. Then I'm going to resume the interview. So I'm going to start it here. So this is 22, and they're going to go into the feminist and homosexual agenda created by the Jews. Okay.
These days they carry purses and they wear earrings. They're no wonder the white girls come to us, all the shiksas. I had a conversation here not long ago with an individual, and I got into the feminist homosexual agenda in the United States, and I told them that actually the sexist homosexual agenda was actually created and funded by Jewry, by the Jews of the United States. Would you want to discuss on that? Yeah, we got that going back in the early 1900s. The women's rights movement. We started off. See, when you're gonna have a game and you got a bigger goal, you can't go in like a Sherman tank going through something. You gotta start a little small. And so we said, hey, how about you get equal pay for equal work? And women have the right to vote. And everybody bought into that. And we started with the women because it's hard to get the men. The women are the weaker sex, as we know from that old Adam and Eve story of yours. But
So yeah, so he went to two topics. Okay, roughly two things. He went to the feminist and homosexual agenda and how it's created by the Jews, and how the women's right movement was created by the Jews. And how, targeting women because they're the weaker vessel, okay? Which are two topics I'm going to discuss and just break it down through the precepts of the word of the Lord. Because these things are very important to exposing the devil, okay? To exposing who Satan is, okay? Who is the incarnation version of spiritual demon Satan? Who is spiritual demon Satan operating through, okay? Because he's operating through someone, right? So I was just going to write out some precepts. And the first one is going to be, let's see, Psalms 82 and 5. Unjust judgments rebuke. Psalm 85 says they know not, neither will they understand. They walk on in darkness. All the foundations of the earth are on the course. Right. The foundations of the earth are out of course. Okay. Let's go another foundation. Foundation. And foundation goes back to what the commandments and laws of the Lord. That's it. That is the foundation of the earth, right? The earth is the earth principles are well, the earth is in order, okay, according to the word of the Lord, right? According to the commandments and laws of the Lord, which is the foundation, okay, which are the principles of the earth, okay. The earth is kept in order by the commandments and the laws of the Lord. But you have these devils, right? You know, the Job 9:24, the hand given to the earth is given to the hand of the wicked. Um, he is making laws, man-made laws, okay, you know, that go against the order of the Lord, okay, you know, with his homosexual feminist, you know, his alphabet and feminist agenda, right? You know, thinking what man can be with man, right? Women can be with women, okay? Planning the women over the man, okay? You know, that's how the earth is, how all the foundation of the earth is out of course, okay? Along with other man-made things, okay? Whether it's GMO food, okay? This, you know, the earth is not operating in righteousness, okay? Ephesians 2 and Ephesians 2 and 2. Ephesians 2 and 2 reads, where in time past, okay, this is referring to it was like the Gentiles, okay, that was following out the ways of the heathens, right? The Israelites that were following the ways of the heathens, being converted back into their mind, being converted into the mind of Yahweh Shah, okay, through the Holy Spirit, you know, them coming into the truth, okay, and leaving their Gentile ways, right, being converted, okay. So where in the time past you walk according to the course of this world, according to the prince of the power of the air, the spirit that now working in the children of disobedience. Okay. So in time past you walk according to the course of this world, okay, according to the prince of the power of the air. The prince of the power of the air is the spiritual demon Satan, who is operating, which the spirit that now working in the children of disobedience. What I just mentioned, right? The spirit that's not operating in, you know, the those that control this world, right? Your the enemy that you can't see, okay? The enemy that you can't see, okay? Them that set of puppet leaders like your presidents, okay? Your kings, your queens, etc. All right. Because your presidents, your kings and queens, they do the bidding of the enemy you can't see, okay? And the enemy you can't see is a man, okay? It's a human, right? But that human is being controlled by certain spirit, okay, which is Satan, okay, the spiritual demon Satan, because he's what this is. I'm reading the precept, right? The spirit that now working in the children of disobedience. The children of disobedience is the wicked, okay. You know that's self-explanatory. It's not talking about the children of righteousness, okay. He's not talking about the Israelites, okay. This is talking about a certain people, okay, which is Esau, the Edomites, okay. Them that pushes these homosexual alphabet and feminist agendas, okay. 1 Timothy 2:12. Women, 1 Timothy 2:12 reads, "But I suffer not a woman to teach, nor to usurp authority over the men, but to be in silence." Okay, and this is where you sin. Okay, Esau's feminist agenda, right? And him using the women. Okay, targeting the women. Okay, to usurp authority over the men. All right, this is why you see women pastors, women preachers. Okay, so this is what the word usurp authority means: one who with his own hands kills another or himself to govern, okay, exercise dominion over one. That's the point, okay, to govern or exercise dominion over one, right? This is what you're seeing, right? You're seeing a lot of women, okay, governing or overseeing men, right? Whether in the churches, okay, being pastors, being preachers, okay, whether it's in government, different buildings, offices, okay, you know, or the workplace, etc. All right. This not this, but this is not according to the way of the Lord. This is not according to the commandments of the Lord. Okay, so what does the word of the Lord says? For a woman to not teach, right, or to nor to use authority over the man. Okay, but Esau, through his man-made laws and agendas, right, you know, being the children of disobedience. Okay, he completely went against the commandments of the Lord. All right. So for Adam was first formed, then Eve, showing that the man is the head of the woman. Okay. And Adam was not deceived, but the woman being deceived was in the transgression, right? She was in transgression. This is why she's be considered a weaker vessel. Okay. I'm do get Jeremiah 31:22. Jeremiah 31:22 is, "How long will that go about, O thou backsliding daughter?" Referring to the Israel. Okay. And for the Lord Yahweh had created a new thing in the earth. A woman should compass a man. So this is the working of the Lord. Okay, using spiritual demons to operate through the children of disobedience. Okay, because this is a movie. This is a show. He can do that. All right. A woman should compass a man. Right. And this is what we're seeing. Okay, a woman compassing a man. Okay, and that's a new thing on earth, because in ancient days this would not have been a thing. Right. You would not see women's teaching, preaching. Okay. You know, running for president of a country. Okay, you will not see that in the ancient world. Okay, so that's a new thing in the earth, because they're naturally the weaker vessel. You know, then I'll get Isaiah 5:10. Isaiah 5:10 reads, Isaiah 5:20 reads, "One to them that call evil good and good evil, that put darkness for light and light for darkness, that put bitter for sweet and sweet for bitter." Okay? So the point is, woe to them that call evil good, meaning what? Destruction. Okay? The word woe means woe, or it can mean destruction, right? Condemned, right? Damned, right? They call evil good and good evil, right? And this is what Satan is doing, right? This is what the devils that's been operating, especially Satan, doing. You know, the fake Jews, okay? You know, and the enemies that you can't see. All right, they're pushing agendas and calling evil good and good evil. Okay, saying that men can be with men, women can be with women, saying that it's a righteous thing for women to brood over men. Okay, it's a righteous thing for women rights. Okay, for women to have rights, right? For women to vote. Okay, for women to go out and work. Okay, no, all right, it's not. The women supposed to be what? Proverbs 20. Let's see. Proverbs 31, okay? This is the Proverbs 31 outlines the description of a worthy woman, okay? Basically a woman of virtue, okay? A woman who's according to the word, according to the way of the Lord, according to the commandment of the Lord, supposed to be, supposed to have these characteristics and traits, okay? Proverbs 31:20 says, she looked well to the ways of her household and eateth not the bread of idleness, meaning whether this woman is a woman that is constantly ensure her household is in order under the demand, ensure that everything is being taken care of, there's chores are being done, okay, you know, just things is the household is in order and perfect. Either not the bread. I just mean what she don't sit around on her butt doing nothing. Okay, she's not out here on TikTok, YouTube, Twitch trying to do YouTube videos. Okay, just twerking. Doing just things of just being vain. Okay, and just being the flesh. No, okay, because this is what you see with this feminist agenda, right? You know, women not caring for the household, not caring, um, not mind their behavior. Okay, you know, but these different social media platforms gives women um, the give women the basically liberty to just do whatever. Okay, but you know, they're eating the bread of idleness. Okay, idleness. And Proverbs 31:12 is a good one too. She said she would do him good and not evil all the days of her life. She would do her husband good because her husband is her Lord. Okay, she would do him good and evil and not evil all the days of her life, right? The scripture is about uh, um, get it here. Ecclesiastes 25:23. Now this in the Apocrypha, but I'm going to read it. Um, it says a woman that will not comfort her husband in distress, make his weak hands and feeble knees. Okay, so that's the opposite of Proverbs 31:12. She would do him good and not evil all the days of life. Meanwhile, she would comfort her husband, right, in distress, right? A woman that's not comforting her husband, and this is what you're saying, okay? Women not comforting their husbands, okay? Just being loud, okay, boisterous in their household, right? Talking back, okay, being argumentative, okay. They make it what weak hands and feeble knees, okay. They're worthless, right? Ultimately, right? They don't serve. They're not serving any purpose to that man. And that's evil, okay, in the sight of the Lord, okay, that's wicked in the sight of the Lord. This is why you say men and women being judged. This is why you saying ultimately. This is why you saying many, you know, husbands, so to speak, or boyfriends, so to speak, which are husbands, because I'm such a boyfriends. All right, you're either dealing with a woman or you're not, right? Killing their wives, right? Because they're out in the streets, being whores, okay, and they're getting gunned down by their husbands. All right, but that's ultimately what judgment coming from the Lord. All right, because you're being wicked, you're being evil. You're not heeding to the instruction of the word of the Lord. So I'm going to go back to the interview. Nope. Right, actually, I'm going to bring out more precepts. Bring out 1 Peter 3. 1 Peter 3 and 7 says, likewise, ye husbands, dwell with them according to knowledge, giving honor unto the wife as to the weaker vessel, and as being heirs together of the grace of life, that your prayers be not hindered. Okay, and this is instruction to the men, right? Deal with your woman according to the knowledge, according to the way of the Lord, giving honor unto the wife as unto the weaker vessel. Okay, know that we know that she is subjected to um the attacks of the enemies. Okay, she's highly subjected to the attacks of the spiritual demon Satan. She's subjected to going off. All right. This is what you've seen through Adam and Eve. So I'm going to continue to play this interview.
at any rate, we got the women going. And now look at all the women. Most all of them around the world, especially here in America, they got short hair. They got a schwarzer for a boyfriend. They got a lesbian lover. They're married by the time they're 40, but then they can't have too many little children themselves because they've already ruined those years chasing the almighty gold, the dollar, the shekel, and so they're going to wind up a bunch of old maids because nobody wants them. But
that's what you're seeing, all right? You're seeing a lot of women, okay, up to their years and age, okay, you know, not being married, okay, because they rejected what chasing the bag, okay, chasing the bag. What glass ceilings over glass hills, which means um a basically money over the man over Mary. But chasing the bag, right? Because it's what women think. Women think, you know, because when do a women, value decreases? Okay, when did her value decrease? Okay, because they think when they up in age and years, right, that men gonna want to deal with them. When do a woman value decreases? When they lay down with their husband, when they lay down with a man and he goes into her. Okay, that when she or the value decrease. That when she um her virgin when she no longer considered a virgin. Which goes back to what Proverbs 31 and 10. Okay, a woman who can find a virtuous woman. A virtuous woman is woman that is, you know, ultimately she's not in the mindset of chasing silver, chasing money, chasing chuckles. Okay, she's not in that mindset, right? She's focused on learning from her the elders, learning for the women, that came before her on how to properly take care of her household, properly take care of her man, properly take care of her children, right? And getting herself in order, okay, to deal with a man, to be married. For her price is far above rubies, okay. A virtuous woman price is far above rubies, okay. Meaning what she have a high value, okay. Her value is high, okay. She's expensive, okay. But you don't see many virtuous women, okay, in the earth today, right? And if you don't see many virtuous women there today, that means you're not their price, right? That their value is not expensive. I mean, their value is nothing, okay. They're it's low, okay. You can buy a woman cheap, basically. What you can dazzle a woman with money, okay. This is why you can dazzle a woman with money, with your car, with your vehicle, and guess what? they gonna fly to you. Okay, they're gonna fly to you literally. Okay, I wouldn't say literally, but they're gonna fly to you in the sense of they're gonna speak to you, they're gonna talk to you, they're gonna be with you just because of your money. Okay, just because of um, but they're not being with you because they want to take care of you, because they want to um be under you, because they want to have your children, etc. No, they being with you because you can benefit, they can benefit something from you, right? They can use you, right? They can get money, because a woman is just all about to women, money is a sense of surviving. Okay, to them, money is surviving, not being an order on her husband. Okay, that be willing to provide for them. Okay, so there's different. That's how a woman value decreases, right? When they are not, when they're the virtues, they're not keeping the virtues of a excellent, expensive of a excellent woman. Okay, and when they just lay down with different men, all right, and become whores. All right, that's not a virtuous woman. All right, that's not a high value woman. Okay, just like you have high value men, you have high value women. All right, high value men today are the elect. Okay, those that are keeping the ways and the commandments of the Lord, those that come, those men that are sincerely keeping the way of the Lord, calling on the name of the Lord, right? You have high value woman, which you have the let woman. Okay, the let woman is one who is being a Proverbs 31 woman. Okay, all right. So I'm gonna continue to play the interview.
The bottom line is that the real good-looking ones, we take them to Hollywood that we own, and we make them big houses on the
It's like the feedback is bad. Um, but he basically mentioned that the good looking women taking the Hollywood and basically use them for whatever agenda they want to use them for. Okay, ultimately, right? This is why you see women like Kim Kardashian. Okay, um, Beyonce, Nicki Minaj. Okay, you know, women that are considered beautiful according to this world, pushing agendas of the elites. Okay, whether it's a market of beast, Kim Kardashian, right, or Nicki Minaj, right, being paid off by the elites, to push, the agenda they want her to push. Okay, um, Beyonce pushing the agenda. Okay, that feminist agenda. All right, you don't need a man. All right, women don't need a man. Okay, you know.
I see. Well, Rabbi Finkelstein, I was talking to you about the U's and the K's that's on the food boxes and the food sources. And the thing that I want is that this is a private Jewish tax that people unsuspectedly are paying, aren't they? Well, some know, some don't, but they better pay, because if they don't pay, they don't get the item. And the rabbis need to make some shekels too. I was talking to a person who journeyed over to Israel, and the United States has always been known as the land of milk and honey.
Sakya. It's just so Michael 6 and 10. I'm basically gonna play it again. My mic was turned off. But Michael 6:11 through 12 is just another con game being used by the devil, okay, to extort money from you, okay, to to keep you poor, okay, and to overburden you with, you know,
Make them think as long as they don't know the character. I see. Well, Rabbi Finkelstein, I was talking to you about the U's and the K's that's on the food boxes and the food sources. And the thing that I want is that this is a private Jewish tax that people unsuspectedly are paying, aren't they? Well, some know, some don't, but they better pay, because if they don't pay, they don't get the item. And the rabbis need to make some shekels too.
All right. So again, the UNK. I don't know if you heard it because my mic was turned off, but the UK, the U represent the Orthodox Union, all right, and the K represent the kosher, okay. Which basically kosher is a kosher is a certified kosher certified is basically like a designation on a food inspection that it basically compiles with Jewish dietary laws, okay. But ultimately, they're playing a con game, which a con game is just a tactic or trickery that is used to deceive someone for financial gain. Okay, and that's not a new trick in the book, because what the ancient Israelite, was using con games, right? Through different um, through different feast days, right? This is Michael 6:10 reads. I'm gonna start here. Michael 6:11 says, "Shall I count them pure with the wicked balances and with bags of deceitful weights?" It says, and it says, "How can I tolerate your merchants who use this under scales and weights? For the rich man," I'm actually gonna read to the NLT. It says, "The rich among you have become wealthy through extortion and violence. Your citizens are so used to lying that their tongue can no longer tell the truth." Okay. Okay. The point is that the rich men are full of violence. They basically become rich through extortion. They become wealthy through extortion. Right. And the rich men are the enemies that you can't see. Okay. For example, your rabbis, right? They become rich through the taxation, okay, of food items, food product, okay. And what the masses are forced to pay those different private taxes, okay, of food. And the rabbis, what they get rich from that.
I was talking to a person who journeyed over to Israel. And the United States has always been known as the land of milk and honey. They say over there, the United States is a land of milk and money. Would you like to relate to that?
All right. So in code, the term milk and money just mean what? Basically, riches, wealth. All right. Whether the minerals, the different minerals, the gold, the silver, okay. Highly fertile lands, okay. The oil, okay. U.S. is the number one oil reserve country globally, okay. and you need oil to run a nation. Um, U.S. the land of milk and money, which is milk and M, which is milk which is money slash honey, which is money, okay, which runs from your gold, your silver, your oil, okay, 'cause these things make money, all right. These things was make a nation rich, okay, nation wealthy. So I'm gonna bring out some precepts on that. Actually, let me see. We'll get 1 Kings 9:26. 1 Kings 9:26 reads, and King Solomon made a navy of ships in Ezengeber, which are going to break out where that city is located, which is beside Eloth on the shore of the Red Sea in the land of Edom. Okay, now Ezengeber is located here. This is where Ezengeber is located. Okay, because it's where they build the ships at. Okay, at the shore of the Red Sea. Okay, and this is the Red Sea. The Red Sea goes out into the which we consider Indian Ocean. And Hiram sent in the navy, which is a fleet of ships. And Hiram was a king, okay, that assisted. He's a king of Tyre that assisted, who was allied with David, and assisted him in building his palace by sending him able workmen and also cedar trees and fir trees from Lebanon. After the death of David, he entered into similar alliance with Solomon and assisted him greatly in building the temple. He also took part in Solomon's traffic to the Eastern Seas. So the Eastern Seas would be considered like the Atlantic Ocean, okay, where and that would be considered the world, the far the New World, okay. And the New World is also where the 10 tribes of Israel was located, or was located too, where they went. Um, and Second Ezra 13 goes into that. Not Second Ezra 13, but Second Ezra 13 to 40 goes into it. inherited in the navy his servants shipment that had knowledge of the seas. So you were shipment that had knowledge of the seas. They knew the navigation of the seas, right? They knew how to get, where they needed to go. Were these servants of Solomon, and they came to Ophir and fetched from thence gold 420 talents and brought it to the king Solomon. So let me read this in the NLT. That they sailed to Ophir and brought back to Solomon some 60 tons of gold. All right. What the word Ophir means. Characteristics of fine gold, okay? A golden region in the east, okay? A golden region in the east. All right. Now, some people say Ophir was like Africa, North Africa, maybe the Caribbean island, okay? Ophir also means, in the KJV dictionary, also means fruitful region. Ophir, right? So some say that. So the KJV dictionary, some scholars say that it's India. It's already okay if you look it up on Google. Some say it was Africa. Some say it was the Caribbean islands, right? Where the 10 tribes, okay, were scattered among, Benjamin, all right, Levi. You had the Native Americans, right? Gadites was Reuben, with inhabiting Americans. So Ophir, fruitful region. As the precise geographic situation of Ophir has long been a subject of doubt and discussion. The two countries which have divided opinions of learned have been Arabia and India, while some have placed it in Africa. In 5 passages, Ophir is mentioned by name. I just read these precepts. Is that as the 3 passages of the Book of Kings are carefully examined, it will be seen that all the information given respecting Ophir is that it was a place or region accessible by sea front, Ezion Geber of the Red Sea, from which imports of gold, ogma trees, and precious stones were brought back by the Tyrian and Hebrew sailors. So right now I'm looking up something. Where did the almond trees originated? The almond trees believed to have originated in the tropical drought forests of the Indian subcontinent, particularly in southern India and Sri Lanka. Okay. All right. But it doesn't give you exactly if it originated in the North Americas, but I'm pretty sure you can find some almond trees in North Americas. And precious stones. All right, I just read through that. But yeah, so there's no exact geographic location of where these city Ophir is located, but we believe the Spirit is speaking about, okay, you can be speaking about America, okay, the U.S. Because Solomon, he ultimately, he went, those ships were, packed, so they went into different, countries, okay, different lands, right, and some could have came to America, right, and got, because America is full of different minerals and gold and, silver, all right, so, you know, the new world, so to speak, could have been an exploration done by the servants of Hiram and Solomon. All right, so I'm gonna um, bring you back to the interview.
Well, what's in a saying? What can I say? A lot of people here in America, they still keep screaming about these 55 guys that they say formed the company, the country a couple of hundred years ago. But the bottom line is that the Jews formed the country. And the United States has always been known as the land of milk and honey. They say over there, the United States is a land of milk and money. Would you like to relate to that? Well, what's in a saying? What can I say? A lot of people here in America, they still keep screaming about these 55 guys that they say formed the company, the country a couple of hundred years ago. But the bottom line is that the Jews formed the country. We came over here. 1492 was that terrible year that we got kicked out of Spain. And Columbus, who was a Jew, he found it out to take us over here. We're going to set up in Rio, and then we
Okay, so
decided to go to New York because New York has a little bit better weather, not so many mosquitoes. It was a little bit better. So we set up in New York and we make the money.
all right, so all right, that's what he basically mentioned. Okay, so 23, no 24, if it's a J. In 1492, Jews kicked out of Spain made their way to New York. All right, so let's bring out that topic with some. So I'm gonna bring out a few things actually. First thing I'll bring out. Now, who are the Jews? Okay, you know, these Jews are referring to the Ashkenazi Jews. Okay, when he say Jew, he referring to the Ashkenazi Jews, the fake Jews, right? Not the chosen Jews, right? Not the chosen Jews. Okay, so the Ashkenazi Jews are the Jews of France, Germany, and Eastern Europe, and their descendants. The adjective Ashkenazic and corresponding nouns Ashkenazi and Ashkenazim, plural, are derived from the Hebrew word Ashkenaz, which is used to refer to Germany. Most American Jews today most American Jews today are Ashkenazim, descendants from Jews who immigrated from Germany and Eastern Europe from the mid 1800s to the 1900s. So this page this site are written from the Ashkenazic Jewish perspective. So this is where they were located. They came. So there's difference, right? They came from Europe, right? Because they was the one that sold what the true biblical Israelites into slavery. Okay, so they came from. This is where they came from. Okay, when they got kicked, so-called got kicked out of the land of Spain. Okay, and came to the U.S. Right, and found and start um settling in the land in New York, right, which was considered New Amsterdam at the time because it had been ruled by Dutch, all right, which was the Netherlands. When they settled in that land, okay, they was gonna they needed slaves, okay, ultimately, and then you have these severed these fuck you, I'm like a bit of pronounce that word separate feverish Jews, okay, um, which are Jews that was which Jews which was Israelites, okay, which were referred to as Sephardim, okay, Jews. which were Israelites that kept the law, right? These were considered um, the macaronis, okay? So let me bring up that. So the macaronos. Now, the Moors, right? The Maroon is a Jew or Moor in Spain, right? To avoid persecution, okay, they did a public conversion to Christianity, but they conducted private practices, beliefs in old religion, meaning they practice being an Israelite. Okay, they practice the ways of our forefathers, the ways of the Israelite forefathers. Okay, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob believes in old. Oh, sorry. But the word the maroons were a byword for dark brown people. Okay, then the American Jewish, which were the what you want to say, the Ashkenazi Jews. Okay, is considered the small hats. Left Spain, say they were left Spain, which what you heard from Rabbi um, Abraham Finkelstein saying that they left Spain on their own accord. But origins of life, they were they were forced to leave Spain because of Moorish were ruling. Okay, they were ruling Spain. All right, which are the Israelites, and they were not the Sefer Hijram, okay, Jews. All right, because those Jews was even on the map, right? They kept the age of they kept the laws and commandments. Okay, but the Moors, which were Israelites who converted to Islam, right? Because what the scriptures says about how we will be scattered among people and we worship their gods. Okay, those were curses that fell upon the Israelites. But before I bring up more, I'm gonna read this a little better. So the Maronos. The forced conversion of 250,000 Jews in Spain was, in spiritual terms, a Holocaust, never equal in the long exile of the Jewish people. Even under the worst of circumstances of assimilation, it never matched the finality of conversion. At the heart of the tragedy were the Maronos, okay, which were the again, um, it's a byword for dark brown people, okay. They want to say these are not the Maronas, right? They're not dark brown. Again, this is a whitewash image. Okay, look at whitewashing. Look at the term whitewashing. Look at the term iconoclasm, right? The Moors were dark brown people, which were ultimately Israelites. These were Jews who have officially converted to Christianity, but saw themselves as Jews and practiced Judaism in secret as much as they could. Okay, and Judaism is not the religion. Okay, basically, you know, it just goes back to practicing the customs of the true biblical Hebrew, or practicing the custom of being a Hebrew Israelite. Okay, practicing the laws and the commandments of the Bible. In secret as much as they could, most Maronos never left Spain and become fully fledged Christian within 50 to 60 years. Even though Jewish customs were preserved in Marono homes, sometimes even for centuries. For example, lighting candles on Friday night or eating unleavened bread with the onset of spring. Okay, so they was keeping Pesach, the Passover, right? Which only the biblical Hebrew Israelites kept. Okay, it was treated by later generation as nothing more than a mystery family tradition. No, it was not. See, this is how we know that these were these Morons were not white. They were not the Ashkenazi Jews. They were not the fake Jews. They were, you know, the biblical Hebrew Israelites. Okay, that was ruling ultimately Spain. All right, and they ultimately forced the fake Jews. Okay, Ashkenazi Jews. They forced them out. Okay, you know. Talking about that was a mystery. It was a mystery family tradition. No, it was not. Well, it was a mystery, and I'm breaking down the mystery. Okay, the mystery is these are true biblical Hebrew Israelites. These was dark brown people. All right, that was celebrating or not celebrating, but they were keeping the commandments and laws of their power. Yahweh Bashan Shah. As far as religion were concerned, they were Catholic. Okay. When the explosion order in Spain went into an effect in 1492, this is where he basically, Rabbi Abraham Finkelstein was saying that this when, they left Spain on their own, without being forced. They just left, got up and left. But this is what really happened. When the expulsion order in Spain went into effect in 1492, many Jews fled across the border into Portugal, but then they were expelled from Portugal 5 years later. That decree was probably even more damaging to them than the original decree of expulsion for Spain, because it indicated that this time the Inquisition church Christian society was far more serious than anything previous. Within the first 50 years after the explosion, there was a steady exodus of Maroons from the Iberian Peninsula, because this was when the Edomites came to leadership. Okay, in that you're going to also get who basically ordered this explosion. However, they had a hard time mingling with their fellow Jews, even though the rabbis of times had decreed that Maroons be accepted and taken back into the community. Jews outside of Spain have very little sympathy for the Maroons, because what these Jews were either fake Jews pretending to be Jews, okay, well, they were fake Jews pretending to be Jews. More likely, they were Ashkenazi Jews, all right, or they were Ethiopians, okay, saying that they're the true Jews, all right, as well. So they were also fake Jews, okay. So they didn't show no sympathy to the Maroons, who are the true biblical Israelites. For many generations, people would not even marry into their families or treat them as Jewish, mostly out of resentment that when the moment of truth came, they ought to convert rather than to take upon themselves the privation of exile. As a result, many Maroons formed their own community and remained isolated. Is the way the reaction among the Jewish people were extremely negative towards the Maroons. Right. You have some of our people that went to Africa and they formed, but they had formed their own communities. Right. You have the tribe of Igbo, right? The kingdom of Judah, okay, etc. This is where that comes from. These are notes. So notes that you're hearing, or the information that you're hearing or about to hear, are information that I've written down on my own notepad. So you're not gonna see it, or you're not gonna be able to view it. But I'm just gonna speak what I've written down. So Spanish expulsion was in 1492 was the Abd Alhambra decree on March 31st by joint Catholic monarch of Spain, Isabella I, and Fernando II of Aragon. it eliminate Jews, which are the Israelites. These Jews are referring to the Marooners, okay, which are the so-called dark people. It eliminate them, okay, because they had influence on Spain converts population. So the Jews were converted to Catholicism in Spain or Portugal. Okay, this is why he had like this article mentioned. He had the Moors that fled to Portugal. Okay, to try to convert to Catholicism, right? But ultimately, what they were expelled from Portugal too. Okay. In the decree also prevented population from reverting back to Judaism or back to worshiping, keeping the ways and commands of the Lord Yahweh. The entire Jews, which referring to again the Marooners, okay, the biblical Israelites community, around 200,000 people were expelled from Spain. Okay, and this sort of teaches about how we should be few in numbers among the people. Okay, I'll get Deuteronomy 4 and 27. Deuteronomy 4 and 27 reads, and the Lord Yahweh shall scatter you among the nations, and ye should be left few in numbers among the heathen, where the Lord shall lead you. Okay, and there should you serve there you should serve gods, the works of man's hand, wood and stone, which neither see nor hear nor eat nor smell. All right. So ultimately the point is that when Israelite was the true biblical Israelite when they fled from Jerusalem around 70 AD and ultimately went to these different other they what you call it, they got the different identities of themselves, right? They ultimately went astray, but they will still need in the spirit to keep the ways of the Lord. But ultimately they went astray. Okay, they went astray. All right, they started worshiping the gods of the nations. Okay. And again, the J-ish, which are the Ashkenazi in America, they were the one that immigrated from Eastern Europe to USA, meaning what they the one that left Spain, so to speak, and immigrated to the USA, which are Edomites, okay? Because they spoke the Yiddish Hebrew, which is Slavic German. And basically, they so-called replaces the true biblical as like they replaces the Marooners. They replaces the Sephardim Jews, okay? Call themselves to be the Lord's chosen people, right? And they're the one that they bought us, okay? They bought the true biblical Israelites, all right, from the Islam, right, and from the Hamites, okay, but from the Africans, okay, the heathens, all right. All right, so I'm gonna go back to the interview.
I was going to ask you, this war in Iraq, there's a lot of Jew money invested in this war, isn't there? Well, we have all the ammunition companies, we have all the aircraft companies, all the gun manufacturers, all the supplies. We're making a lot of money, and George Bush is a good goyim. He borrows it right from the Federal Reserve, and then he has to tax the people to pay back the interest, because the most important part of a loan is the interest. You must pay back the interest. We're not concerned with the principal, but the interest has to keep going on. And we've done pretty well with Iraq so far. We've got about 300 billion or so. And but this war here is going to go on for another 30 years, as George said. We told him to keep it quiet. And
Right, because the true thing is that they are the terrorists. Okay, they are the one that you know train the terrorists. Okay, they train the terrorists. Right, your Al Qaeda's, etc. They train them to fight. Okay, to wage war. All right, they go to these different countries. Right, whether it's Iraq, Iran, Palestine. All right, to push a certain agenda. Okay, to cause something to happen, and to train these terrorists to you know give them access to either to be terrorists. Okay, so like you mentioned, they form both sides of the war. Okay, they form both sides of the war. Okay, they control both sides. All right. And guess what? The American people and the people is just basically they the one who suffer at the end of the day. Okay, because this devil he got riches by deceit, by fraud. Okay, he's robbing the people. All right. Guess what? They get and at the end of the day, they get what $300 billion from it. Okay, and he said basically he says that the war can continue for another 30 years. Okay, so ultimately, expect to see you know expect to see don't expect an end, okay, of this war, and that's all prophecy anyway. So just see about how in the day there should be wars and rumors of wars. So ultimately, we know that the Lord's control of this because the Lord ruling the kingdom of man. All right, and is a sign that ultimately the second coming of Yahweh Shah is on the way. Okay.
shut up and don't act like a big shot. But he kept talking, and so. But this war is going to go on for another 30 years. We're going to go into maybe 60 countries or so. We're going to be drafting all the goyim here soon. The men, the women. The women, they don't want to sit home and have families anyway. They've got to have a career. That's a nice, exciting thing for a woman to put on a green suit and go over there and shoot people and get shot at. Must be
Right. So what, you gonna use women, okay, to wage war? All right. Because what, women these days they've been so, their mind just being so heavily polluted by the enemy, by the devil, by Satan. You know that they think that being a military is woman. You know that's how you show the strength of a woman. No, okay, and that's why the Lord's got to come back and set this world, the foundation of His word back in course, back in order. All right, It is why the destruction of this world is so heavily needed, okay? Because if we cannot continue to go on like this, okay, for another 30 or 20 years, okay? There's just no way, all right? And we're going to go into another 60 countries, right? And that's basically goes back to Micah 2:1. All right, Micah 2:2. And they covet fields and take them by violence. Okay. The fields represent land. Okay. And it says when you want a piece of land, you find a way to seize it. When you want someone's houses, you take it by fraud and violence. You cheat a man of his property, stealing his family inheritance. Right? And this is basically what you just heard. Okay. The devil tongue fought upon himself. Okay. The wicked tongue fought upon themselves. Okay. And the scripture is just jumping out of the block, out of the book. Okay.
Exciting to them. So we're making a lot of money. You know, this is very interesting. Well, Rabbi Finkelstein, it's really good talking to you, and I'm sure the listening audience here on the Turner Radio network is listening very intently, because a lot of things have been a little exposed, some more exposed than others. But, you know, at least you're coming out and you're telling the truth. And, you know, you state, you know, we got $300 billion tied up in Iraq with interest. And what's 1,700 to 3,000 dead bodies compared to how much money you made? Well, but you gotta thin out the herd once in a while. Otherwise, the herds get too big. And if the herds get too big, they eat up all the resources. So you gotta thin out the herd once in a while. We call it a theater of war, because it's amusing to us Jews to see our two biggest enemies, the white race and the Arab race, the seed of the woman. It's amusing to us to see them kill each other, and we make a lot of money off it. Believe me, I've had a lot of laughs at the synagogue with that. Well, we got a break here coming up in about a minute, I believe. And you're listening to the John 844 program of Pastor Bob, entitled The Lying Jews, on the Turner Radio Network. I'm James Wickstrom, a teacher of Yahweh, and as a guest on Pastor Bob's program tonight is Rabbi A.B. Finkelstein on the East Coast of the United States. We're going to be coming back to you after this break. Just hold your chair and hold your place. We'll be back in just one moment. I'd like to welcome you back for the second half of Pastor Bob's broadcast tonight on the Turner Radio Network on John 844. I'm James Wickstrom, a teacher of Yahweh, sitting in for Bob tonight. I wanted to thank him for covering for me last week a broadcast, The Lying Jews. Very interesting that I have one on here with no conscience, but he's coming up and at least telling the truth to what's going on in the country, is Rabbi A.B. Finkelstein from the East Coast of the United States. Rabbi Finkelstein, are you still there? I am here, and remember, there's never been a Jew in the history of the world that ever told a lie. We always tell the truth. Yes, I see. I know what your truth is. Your truth to you is a lie to us, but that's fine. I'd like to get into the situation that took place years ago, I know you're well aware of it. It was called the Bolshevik Revolution over in Christian Russia. It's been reported here on congressional documents in the United States, and it's in many places now, that actually it was Jews who financed the Bolsheviks' Jew Communist Revolution against the Tsar. Would you comment on that? Well, it was really the Rothschild family that financed it because they got all the shekels. Boy, let me tell you, they got the shekels. When the old man died in 1812, he owned half of all the known wealth in the world. Oy vey! The rest of us gotta chop up the rest of it. But anyway, we started the Bolshevik Revolution there because you might as well start with taking over the biggest country in the world, which was Russia. And we had the help to murder the Tsar from his cousins, the Kaiser, and the King and Queen of England. And so they helped us, and they gave us all the inside information that we needed to take the country over. And but we drained that country pretty well. There's not a lot left. And so we look for greener pastures. And we've been doing real good here in America for a long time, but it's time to do something else. So we're going to build up China and India, and we'll just let America sink into the desert because no one really cares about America anymore. It's, there's not a lot of shekels to be made anymore. You know, as they say, you can't get blood out of a stone, and we've got as much blood out of this stone as we're going to get. You know, it's interesting because
All right. All right. So there's a few things that was, topics that was being discussed. All right. So as you can hear, the devil admitted that they call word a theater because it's amusement to them. Okay, two ways. Word is right. Scripture about what blood is as nothing. Blood is nothing to the wicked. Let's see. I can find it. He should not be satisfied by blood. Blood. He's such a blood. Ezekiel 35. There it goes. Ezekiel 35 and 5. Because thou hast had a perpetual hatred and has shed the blood of the children of Israel by the force of the sword in the time of their calamity, in the time of their iniquity had an end. Okay. Therefore, as I live, said the Lord, Yabashasha, I will prepare thee unto blood, and blood shall pursue thee. Sees that has not hated blood, even blood shall pursue thee. Right. All right. Again, this is the enemy. All right. This is the devil speaking. Right. He is saying that, you know, he doesn't. Blood war, which called bloodshed, right, is amusement to him, right? He doesn't hate blood, right? So blood gonna pursue him, right? And this is where you're seeing, right? These devils are being exposed, their lies are being exposed. Okay, that's the title of the interview. Um, with the son, the interview with the son of the devil, his lies been exposed. Okay. And guess what? Blood's gonna pursue them. Okay, meaning what that ultimately, Russia, Lord gonna cause something to happen where, that it gonna cause the kingdom, this devil kingdom to fall, okay, to collapse. And he also went into um, the Bolshevik Revolution, which I basically mentioned how, they go into different countries, push their agenda, and start these different, you know, revolutions. Okay, and we're draining Russia of its resources. Okay, which they're what they want you to think. Okay, Russia is a powerful nation. All right, even with the um, even with their with the terrorists and limitation placed with them, they're still surviving. Okay, so don't let that be confused about that. Okay, because the Lord gonna use Russia to ultimately take down Babylon the Great, to take down Esau. Okay, we're now going to build up China and India. Okay, now that is significant. Let me get a precept. Actually, I'm going to get this precept. Daniel's 4:17. Daniel 4:17 reads, "This matter is by the decree of the watchers, and the deem and the demand by the word of the Holy Ones, to the intent that the living may know that the Most High ruleth in the kingdom of man, and giveth it to whomever He will, and set us up over it the basis of man." Okay, the basis of man is what? All right, the Edomites, Esau. All right, meaning how is it based? Because he is considered a children of disputes. He doesn't follow and keep the ways of the Lord, Yahweh Shah. The heathens, in general, the heathens the Chinese, okay, the Ishmaelites, the Japanese, the Hamites, all right. So for so on, they are the basis of man, okay. They are low level, all right. But guess what? They ruling, okay. They are over the righteous. They are over the righteous, okay. The whole the people of the Lord. They're over the Israelites, okay. So as you can see, you know, this devil is speaking about him going to Russia, starting a revolution. You know, we drain Russia of its resources. We're not going to build up China, India. We'll let America sink into the desert. It shows that the devil, your enemy, your secret enemy, okay, is rooting, okay, the world, right? He allowing nations to strive, to thrive, okay. He, if he want a nation to thrive, he gonna ensure that nation thrive. If you don't want a nation to thrive, he gonna ensure that nation don't thrive, okay. And Moab, which is the Chinese, is a proud nation. Okay, I'll get Jeremiah 4:29. We have heard the proud of Moab. He is exceeding proud. His loftiness and his arrogancy, and his proud, and the haughtiness of his heart. Okay, so what does his Lord mean by this? Right, because there's some scripture in Apocrypha that I cannot find. Either in the Apocrypha or the um, it's a scripture that I cannot find about where it's just about how perfect paraphrasing Moab has said had put in his heart that he would be the next one to rule. Okay, Moab basically think he's going to rule, right? And this is his proud. This is how you see the proud, his loftiness, right? He really thinks that he's gonna be the next one to rule. This is why he coming trying to. This is why America is trying to number one enemy, right? Because they both is fighting for longevity to stay around the longest, and they fight for to be major world power, to be superpowers. Okay, Moab and the Chinese and Esau, Edom, they go. They're just two heathen nations, right? But they're proud, and them think that they're gonna rule and be around forever and ever, right? Is what this scripture mean by he the seed and proud. Okay, and they they're getting down with the game of the Jews, right? The elites, right? You know, again, they're pushing, you know, um, the agenda of the elite. They pushing, what they're pushing the social credit score, that if your social credit is low, you won't be able to do certain things. You won't be able to travel. You won't be able to just do certain things. Okay, so they pushing you know the biometric agenda. Okay, everything is going to be controlled by um, China social credit system. called China's social credit system. I'm going to share my screen because this is something they're trying to bring to the U.S. So China's social credit system is a comprehensive framework designed to assess the trustworthiness of individuals, business, and government entities, influence various aspects of life based on behavior and compliance. The social credit system um, is a national initiative aimed at promoting trustworthiness and regulating behavior across society. It evaluates individuals and organizations based on their financial, social, and legal records, assigning scores that can lead to rewards or penalties. The system is measured by several government bodies, including the National Development and Reform Commission and the People's Bank of China. Um, It says the USA is not implementing a social credit system like China, but there are concerns and discussion about the potential for such a system. Okay. But the whole point is matter that China is a major forerunner of the top bankers' elite agendas, right? They push it heavily. Okay. All right. So I'm going to pause. Is there? All right. One thing also that was mentioned that I didn't bring out was that what America is becoming America was sinking to the desert, to the desert, right? Which goes back to what Babylon, where the nations have drinking of the wine and wrath of Babylon, and therefore the nations shall mad, right? So the nation they have, whatever the top nation is going to do, they're going to have these nations become mad at Babylon, okay? And they're going to cause these nations to shoot nuclear missiles on Babylon, which is going to destroy Babylon the Great, okay, which is America. That's going to be the war of all wars, World War III. So when that happens, okay, is the ushering of the kingdom of Yahweh Shai, which is jointly jointly aired by the Israelites, okay, ruling over the heathens. So I'm gonna close it here by giving all underground praises to Yahweh, by Hashem, Yahweh Shai, by Shir Kadash, and that's conversation.